Hey everyone, it's Kaneisha, the founder and CEO of The Art of Applying. Today we have an amazing, very special interview with our client, David. David is one of the most successful, if not the most successful client we've had so far. And so he has volunteered his time today to tell you a little bit about his journey, and I am really excited. Hi, David.
Hey, Kaneisha, how are you?
I'm doing great. How's it going?
Good, good. Now that this process is wrapping up, it's definitely exciting.
I know you feel good. It's a great holiday. What a amazing, Christmas present for you and your family.
Definitely, definitely fantastic.
Yeah. So, first, let's just spill the beans up front so that people know who we are talking to. Uh, just go straight in. Tell us the results that you got from working with the Art of Applying.
Sure. So I only applied to three business schools and I've gotten into all three. So I'm a dual admit. So I got into Stanford's Graduate School of Business, as well as Harvard Business School and Wharton. So it's definitely been fantastic. On the Wharton side, I'm also a recipient of a full tuition fellowship.
Fantastic. So just to say that again, in case you didn't catch it, David only applied to three business schools with our help. I actually, recommend people apply to five or more, but he was very sure he only wanted to apply to three. And so he applied to Harvard Business School, Wharton, and Stanford. He was admitted to all three schools, and he was admitted to Wharton with a full tuition scholarship. Awesome. Great. So that's who we're talking to today, our superstar, David. So David, tell us, how did you learn about the Art of Applying? How did you know that we even existed?
Yeah, it's actually a funny story. So my girlfriend Jasmine actually went to one of your open events in New York. I lived in Los Angeles at the time. I was working at a financial institution there. And we talked about the business school process. I had just started my Gmat studying, and being the supportive person she is, she went to the open house and met you and just thought that you were fantastic. The energy that you brought was amazing, and the information was so rich that she thought it would be a great opportunity for us to connect. And I set up a call with you. We discussed kind of my plans and what I was thinking. And one thing that I definitely appreciated and knew right off the bat that it would be a great fit for me was that you were so candid and really shared your own opinion. I think it's rare where you have kind of people playing both sides of the fence, and you're almost as confused after a call as you were before. But I think, you did kind of give pros and cons of everything, but you also really put in your 2 cents, which I think is what makes you really stand out and the organization as a whole. So that's kind of how I got linked up with Art of Applying. I started with you guys almost a year ago at this time. So I've been through, it's been a long process, and not just business school, but also career advice, thinking about a transition that I had in my life. You guys have been there. It's been fantastic.
That is so beautiful. And David, you said almost a year ago, but we actually spoke over a year ago. We spoke
Over a
in
year ago. Yeah,
September.
so I signed on the dotted line a year ago, but we spoke in September. So, right when I was starting off my process, I think I had just picked up my first GMAT book when we were discussing.
That's
So,
right. So for people who are like, how does that timing work? David is so ahead of the game and so proactive that he reached out the September of 2016
yeah,
so that he could start, and that's super early, so that he could start working with us in January 2017.
definitely.
And now it's December 2017. The whole rest of the year, the whole year has passed, and he is chilling with all his admissions and scholarship. That's right. While people are scrambling, David, do you know we are still getting emails from people today who are
Wow.
like, oh, I would like to start working with you.
Wow, wow. For anyone who's out there who does watch this video, I hope that you guys start early. There's no better benefit than to start with someone, with a team who really understands the whole process early. That way you can really start to adjust either your schedules or how you're approaching this whole thing, early on, because a lot of this stuff has to be done up front. So, hopefully people kind of take, like you said, I am super early. I was really on top of it. A year before first round deadlines, I was already kind of thinking about what to do for the next year. But, the earlier the better I see it.
Yes, and it has totally paid off for you. So thanks for that, David. So David, what made you want to get expert help with the application process? What were you worried about, and just what wasn't working for you, and what made you know you didn't want to go it alone?
Yeah, so, I went to Columbia College undergrad, so, an Ivy League institution, pretty successful. I had some great job opportunities, but I knew this was a space that I didn't know much about. There's a different competition level at this stage. There's more of a mixed bag when you do kind of your undergraduate stuff and certain other schools, but when you're competing in the MBA realm, it's not just about academics. It's not just about work experience. It's not just about your personal story. It's a holistic approach. And I knew that I had a story to tell that may be a little bit unique for most applicants, or at least would help me stand apart from those who had similar backgrounds in finance that I did. So I knew that having someone in my corner who understood how I can craft my story and how I can really most effectively sell myself and really cement the brand that I was hoping to show the business schools, I thought it was going to be invaluable, and it really was. And, some of the things that I think you asked what I was worried about throughout the process, my Gmat score was terrifying. So when I started this whole process, I had not yet taken an official test. I had no idea where I was going to land. I knew the dream schools that I had in mind, but I had no idea if everything else in my application would be enough to get me there. I had the misconception that I needed a perfect Gmat score, that there was no other way to get into one of these schools without a perfect Gmat score. And ultimately, I did do well on my Gmat. But even before then, when we started our first conversation in September, I think, working with an expert like yourself, especially the art of applying, it really provided, it put me at ease that there were other things in my story, things that I had not even considered as real selling points for myself. So I think that was really the benefit of linking up, for sure.
Beautiful, beautiful. And tell us just a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What are some of the things in your story that you want to share with other people?
Yeah, so Brooklyn, New York, that's where I'm from. So I grew up in a single family household, low income, but luckily, through some mentorship, I always worked hard in school. I achieved on, in my education, I did very well. And even in the jobs that I was seeking, I worked in investment banking for 2 years. And then I moved over to a large private equity firm in Los Angeles for 2 years. So I think I had the background, but the uniqueness of me was that low income kind of upbringing, right? It was really selling the story that, from point A to point B, I've seen a lot. And it has shaped the decisions that I've made. So actually, currently I work at a nonprofit. It's a nonprofit that actually helped me break into finance all those years.
Let's give them a shout out. They helped me a lot too in my life. So
they're called SEO, fantastic organization. They're just amazing. So, working with you as well, which is one thing that can't be understated. It was the MBA application, of course. It was a lot of great help there. But I remember when I came to you, when I thought about changing my job, as you go through this exploration process in the MBA and then really think about your story, mine was the low income single mother, person of color, kind of that struggle, working with you and kind of thinking about what I actually wanted to do after my MBA. It wasn't just get into the MBA and that's it. It was, really, where do I want this to get me? And I realized that with my story, I had a lot to offer. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to make a change. And I remember the conversation that I had with you before we even talked about apps, before I even signed on for schools and exactly what I was going to do. I think we signed on for random schools just to get a contract in. We sat down, we talked about my transition from finance into nonprofit. And, you really gave me a lot of the confidence that I can make that jump successfully and still be as compelling, if not a more compelling applicant as well. So one of those things that, I didn't necessarily sell at first, I definitely want to say that you guys are extremely helpful with that process as well. So it wasn't just MBA consulting. I got some life consulting, some professional consulting. And that's kind of my story. And it's definitely been a crazy ride.
That's beautiful. It has. It's been a wonderful ride. And David, all of us were so excited from you from the beginning. I don't know if you remember, I just knew. I was like, okay, let me hook you up with our other David, who I think we're going to do the same thing for you. And we did the same thing. So our other David, superstar, we helped him get into HBS for the 2+2 program, Harvard Kennedy School, and then a full ride to Harvard Kennedy School. So he's a superstar. And I was like, oh, you got to talk to this guy because I know you two are going to, and it turned out the same for you. So exactly. Fantastic. Are you willing to share or tell us however much of your profile you're willing to share in terms of GPA, what you studied, test score, whatever you are willing to share? Yeah.
I'm an open book. So I studied economics in undergrad. I took a lot of math classes. Originally, I was a statistics minor. So I had a lot of quant classes in my background. Like I said, I went to Columbia in New York. I then worked at Bank of America in investment banking for 2 years. I did leverage finance, and I moved over to Ares Management in Los Angeles, where I did distressed debt investing, credit investing, kind of that whole spiel. In terms of my GPA, I graduated at 3.6 GPA, and that's rounding up. It was more like a 3.57.
Yeah.
But at 3.6, not too bad, not great, not bad. In terms of my GMAT, I eventually, I know this is going to sound like a scary number for a lot of people, I eventually got a 750 on my GMAT.
Fantastic.
But I will say to everyone out there who is scared of the GMAT, because I know that's usually the biggest point of anxiety, is I did not start at 750. I didn't want to take a diagnostic test because I thought I was just going to psych myself out. I think my first diagnostic test, I got a 600 on my first diagnostic test, and that was after 2 months of studying. So, that may be my GMAT score now, my final GMAT score. But once again, the benefit of starting early and really kind of honing in on what you're looking for and really deciding what you're aiming for kind of focused me up and really told me that, I can get there, and, with the practice I did. So just want to say that I do have a great GMAT score. I mean, by the numbers, but I was not there when I first talked to Kaneisha at all.
That's right. So you didn't wait until you had a 760 and then reach out 1 month before the applications were due.
No. I reached out to you knowing that this was something that I couldn't control, that I knew that I can study, but in the end of the day, if I can't perform on test day, it's going to happen, but it's not going to stop me from applying. We talked about your background as well. And that also inspired me to say, hey, like, there are other things here that I should bank on that will at least make me competitive. The GMAT was more icing on the cake for me. So yeah, I approached you before I had even taken a real test, and I was already struggling through practice tests. So I knew I needed that help, and just you kind of focusing me on the story and really kind of put me at ease while I was going for the GMAT.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Thanks for sharing those numbers.
Absolutely.
So when you came to us and we talked and you felt good about working with us, what specifically did you hope we would help you with? What were the parts of the application process that you felt like you would really want support with?
Yeah, I think what I was expecting and also what I received was I really wanted someone to help me. I knew the story I had to tell. I used to joke around when I would talk to the consultant that I work with that I have one story to tell, right? I have one story to tell, but how do I tell it that's compelling? And how can I tell it where it's not just backward looking, it's also forward looking, looking at the future and really kind of put things together. When I first linked up with you guys, I had a very different vision of what I wanted going into school. And it was part of the education process that you guys helped me go through when I was thinking about schools and really thinking about my story that actually helped me move towards something that I think I'm actually going to end up pursuing. So, which is impact investing. That's kind of my new passion, meshing it all together.
That's right.
It wasn't. Initially, I was thinking that finance was for me and I had to stick in because it's hard to get those seats. And, I was really looking for someone to help me hone in on the story, but it kind of went even further than that working with you guys, which I was able to really make a compelling past and really cement and make a strong case for my future and what I envisioned for my career. So that's really what I was hoping for. And I definitely got more than I expected.
Oh, that's beautiful. And, you mentioned that like now your vision has actually expanded now that you've worked with us. It wasn't just about help me make up a story that sounds good. We actually helped you get clear on your actual life and career goals and then helped you grow your vision. So now that you do have a full scholarship to Wharton and then you're still our client, and we're going to try and see if we can get you a full scholarship to Stanford and HBS as well.
We're getting
so
there.
Basically, let's just assume you're going to, no matter what, you're going to one of the best business schools in the world. And, according to the rankings, no matter where you end up, it's the best, right? Because they're always number one on one of the rankings.
Of course.
With a full ride. So just talk to us about how that changes your life. What does that mean for your life to be going to the best business school in the world for free?
100%. So one thing I also just want to backtrack on and make note of is when I met Kaneisha as well, one thing that I didn't also bring up is I thought I was going to be a JD MBA. And I was kind of chasing prestige. I didn't know what I wanted at all. And I was just chasing things because I knew they were the hardest things to get. And we had a candid conversation about that. I think as, with your help, with my consultant's help, kind of putting it all together and really thinking, is that the path that I wanted to take?
Mm-hmm.
And I started to move more towards Harvard Kennedy School as a potential dual degree option. That started to also inform my decision. When you helped me through my transition with work for taking this fellowship at a nonprofit, that really started to inform how I was thinking. At the time where I did that, I was ready to throw away my 4 years of finance, thinking that it was, it's got me this far, but it's done. And now I need to find a new path. I think, as I started to work with you guys, I also started to see the benefit of the skill set that I had. As I started to put it into words and really say, what am I passionate about? Why does my story matter? Why does it matter that I grew up low income to get here? It's really, it's the seat that I'm in. It's how many people cannot get that seat and the impact that I could have in that seat. And it wasn't something that I necessarily should throw away. So, through the exploration process, through iterations upon iterations upon iterations of writing my story, I transitioned from thinking I was going to continue a regular way finance career, now looking at impact investing and trying to mesh my passion for social change through finance, through numbers, through the language that some people only speak, which is money, but using it for good. And in terms of the money that I'm receiving from these schools, it changes drastically how I look at my career. Assuming that I get a full ride to the school of my choice, which it seems like is a real possibility. Instead of feeling like I need to go into a job to pay off my debt, or a job that's going to provide me prestige, continued prestige, I'm really looking at it as, why not just try to make the impact I want now? Mm-hmm. So I've started to gear more towards thinking about entrepreneurship and thinking about taking a seat that maybe no one knows about, but that it really has the impact that I'm looking to make. So, either going back in a nonprofit investing type role, starting my own impact investing fund, taking the money that I don't have to spend now in business school to do some angel investing on campus and start to build up a track record of investing to raise my own fund one day. These are things that I could have never have imagined as viable options that are now real things to think about. And it's overwhelming and surreal, definitely.
That's beautiful. I love it. Overwhelming and surreal for you. And I'm so happy for you. And at the Art of Applying, for us, it's a Tuesday, right? Like that's why you invested with us, is to get a return on your investment. And you're the finance guy. So don't talk about how much you invested, because we like to reveal that in the call. But how much would you say, you're our finance guy, what kind of return on investment are you about to get?
Oh my goodness. So just on a dollar amount perspective,
yeah,
I'm getting 15, 16 times what I put in. And that's just on dollars. So that's not to mention in terms, like I said, the career advice, the transition process, how invaluable it was to hear that I can make the transition that I've always wanted to make and it wouldn't impact me long-term. So that doesn't count that. It doesn't.
Priceless. Yeah.
Yeah. All the priceless things that I got, in dollar perspective, I'm going to get at least 15 to 16 times what I put in. So, I mean, I have no qualms with any of the money that I spent up front. Look at it now, it's almost it's almost silly to think about the money that I put up front as any type of hindrance to join with you guys and then work through the process. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Because, we are at the Art of Applying, we are a premium service. It's a luxury good. And we don't sell little tiny, send in an essay or let us look at your resume once. Like, we sell a comprehensive solution. And so that sometimes can give people a little bit of sticker shock. They're like, I don't know what they're thinking it was going to be. So, I'm just really glad to hear that straight from the mouth of a real client in finance.
And the way I see it, if you guys are already thinking about the Art of Applying, you have already at least come in some way to terms with the sticker shock of an MBA. This is peanuts in compared to that, and it makes all the difference. It can be the difference between your fit school and your in school. It can be the difference between no money and full tuition. So I would not look at it as, a sticker shock. It's just added on top of what you expected for your MBA, but know that it's one of those things, just like your MBA, it's going to provide real returns fairly early. So, you know, I definitely, like I said, I fully endorse it.
Thank you. Wonderful. And my last, my last structured question, and then we have an open question at the end, but my last structured question is there anything else you would say to someone who's watching the video and they're thinking, good for him, he sounds amazing, but I'm just going to try this on my own, or like I just can't afford to pay for help, or like really, is it really going to make a difference? So I know you just kind of touched on that, but just to that person, whether they grew up in a low income household and they can't imagine paying for help for this because they didn't have to do it for college, or to the person who has the money but just is like, who are these random people, I'll just try it on my own, or I have a friend who went to Harvard, he'll just read my essays.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, what I would say to that person is, you can't look at it as, you said it as a luxury good. I don't actually see it that way. I see it as a very vital portion of this process. And you have to realize as an applicant that there's only very few things you can do to get a leg up, right? There's your GMAT, there's a GPA that you can't change, there's your jobs that you can't necessarily change, but there is this portion, this application process, the story, you know, guiding yourself towards something that's going to be successful that you shouldn't look at as a luxury. It's just as important. The same way you would invest in a suit for a job interview, you should look at this as the same vital thing that you have to do. You know, I know it's easy for a lot of people to think that they have the answers, that you can go on the forums and find the answers you're looking for, find people selling the story. I would say that you can't. There's so much erroneous information out there. There's so many different stories that you can't rely on necessarily one person or one experience to guide yourself through the process. So if you have a friend at HBS, they may have had something that they're not necessarily sure they put their finger on. They don't really know why they got in. The good thing about, you know, a service like Art of Applying is you guys have had iterations of candidates. You've seen a myriad of stories and have had successes, and you know, of course there's always going to be a few failures, but you learn from those. Mm-hmm. And I think that holistic experience that you guys have really educates the person who's working with you in terms of, you know, what's possible and what's probable and what's worth kind of pursuing. So you know, for everyone out there, I would say that if you're looking at it as just a service to help you kind of do some essays, you're looking at it completely wrong. And if you're looking at it as a luxury good, I don't necessarily see it that way. So respectfully disagree.
I love the respectful disagreement. I love the reframe. Yeah, that it's necessary.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And you know, there's, like I said, there's a lot of information out there, and to sift through it and to really find the valuable stuff, to have someone who can just hand it to you on a silver platter as you're going through this process, help you redirect when something changes, it's immeasurable. I mean, it's like having like a little MBA guardian angel right there as you're kind of going through your process. So, you know, I would say that it's definitely worth taking the leap.
That's beautiful. And just some clarifications that I want to make is that, like, David had to do the hard work. We don't do the work for you, right? So David wrote his own essays. He was the one who had to reach out to his recommenders. He had to show up to his coaching calls. He had to turn in his essays. He had to study for the GMAT, be willing to take it more than once, share with us his feelings when he was feeling insecure or overwhelmed, be honest with us about his goals, that he wasn't necessarily as happy as he could be in his job, so we could help him move out of that job to one where he just really loves. And my understanding is you're the inaugural fellow at Sponsors for Educational Opportunity in that position.
I am. I'm the inaugural fellow here, which has been amazing. Not just, and the crazy part is, you know, I was looking at it as a step back. I was like, oh, I'm taking a step back in my career. This is kind of weird. You know, not everyone will love my story. And I will say that there were other services, other consultants who told me that my story was now in jeopardy. That I was no longer the applicant I was before. I was no longer the rock star. There was luster that was taken away after I left finance, but Art of Applying didn't see it that way. And I didn't see it that way. So it was great to kind of have that. Like I said, I am the first fellow here, and it's just been amazing to kind of trailblaze this path.
That is, you're going to set the standard for every single person who has that position now.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah, I know you will. And that's a big deal. And also notice that David did speak to other companies or other organizations that discouraged him from following what his heart really wanted to do. I would say that's a huge difference at the Art of Applying, is that we are a very heart-centered company, just because I'm the founder and I'm a heart-centered person. And that doesn't mean we don't operate out of logic or strategy, but that we don't elevate strategy above people's holistic well-being. What's the use of getting into a top school if you get there pretending to be someone that you're not? And so that's a very important value at the Art of Applying. So David did the hard work. He was honest with us, and showed up for himself. And he was willing to invest in himself and his future, and it has paid off many, many times over. All right, David, thank you so much for your time. Is there any last thing you want to say to the other people out there who, I don't know, maybe they're in college, they're a junior or a senior, or they've been out of school for 2 to 5 years. They're like, wow, I want that. That's exactly what I want to happen for me. And then also, can you clarify, did you end up applying to HKS with us, or did you end up not applying?
So I did apply through HKS along with some fellowships as well that we haven't even mentioned. Some of those will actually provide the money that we kind of talked about as hypothetical, which hopefully they're not. And hopefully there's even a follow-up to this that's even more exciting.
Yeah, I definitely think we need a follow-up for sure.
You know, we're going to keep that one under wraps until it happens. But if it does, I think that's maybe even a bigger deal than all these other schools. But yeah, I did HKS as well. So, and one thing I'd say, I guess, as a follow-up, to just reiterate for that student who's thinking about it now, 2+2, or someone who's working, it's never too early to jump into this process and to start to think about this. And don't hesitate if you feel like this is something you want to pursue. I think it's something that I have always thought about, like kind of half-heartedly for such a long time. Luckily, I made my decision early enough that I had the time to get the GMAT done and get everything kind of on cue. But even as much time as I put in early, I think I could have had even more, start even earlier to get this process. It's never too early to start the process, because at the least you're going to find out whether this is for you or not. Mm-hmm. So I would definitely reiterate that. And seeking guidance is always the smart way to go.
Beautiful. I've said that word so many times in this interview. It's just because I am just so happy I have on my Harvard shirt, because I am rooting for you to go to Harvard.
We'll see.
Yeah, definitely. We will see. We will see. David, thank you so much for your time. Everyone, this has been our client, David. This is The Art of Applying. I'm Kaneisha. I'm the founder and CEO. Thank you so much for your time today, David. I know it's going to help a lot of people and inspire a lot of people to know that they can do it too.
Absolutely. And good luck to everyone out there who's applying. Good process, and definitely look for some help. I would say that. Kaneisha's great.